And if you have no clue what that means, it's time for you to holler at Absketeers. Check out the website, absketeers.com. Now, we're talking full confidentiality, no hassle, no obligation. If you don't believe me, just call them. 833-APP-IDEA. That's 833-APP-IDEA. As a matter of fact, you know what they do? They design, they build, and they launch. Tell them you heard it on Power 108.9. And don't forget to ask for the governor. What up, Nick? Yo, looking for a new house? Then it's time for you to holler at our guy, the mortgage guy, Alvin Jameson of Loan Depot. Yo, it's your boy Michael McFadden of Mornings with Michael and Friends. And I tell you what, Alvin Jameson and the crew, they really do it all. First-time home buyers, refinances, investment properties, VA home loans too. Hit them up. It's very simple. AlvinJameson.com. Y'all know Alvin like the chipmunk, Jameson like that fine whiskey. You can also hit them up by mobile phone, 404-587-9033. Once again, 404-587-9033. Alvin Jameson, Loan Depot. Tell them you heard it on Power 108.9. What up, Alvin? It's tax time, ladies and gentlemen, and this year, Mills Financial Group has some amazing programs for all of us, especially, though, if you're a truck driver, contract worker, real estate professional, and definitely those that are self-employed. Now, Mills Financial will get you the maximum refund you deserve. We're talking cash advances up to $9,500 in just 1 hour. Want to get started? Give them a call, 877-634-6299. Now, Mills Financial Group has several locations across the United States of America, including Philly, New Orleans, tell them you heard it on location, the Battery, Atlanta, home of the Atlanta Braves, making tax season that much easier for you. Call them, 877-634-6299. Now, 2020 was tough, and Mills Financial Group wants to help you get what you deserve during tax season. Hit them up, 877-634-6299, or visit the website Mills Financial Group. That's MILLZ financialgroup.com. They got your back.
The team here at Power 108.9 wants to strongly encourage everyone to continue to practice social distancing and wearing a mask while in public. Let's all work together to stop the spread of COVID-19 this holiday season. And if by chance you're in public and you hear someone talking like this,
well, I can't see in this thing. I can't breathe in this thing, and I can't ride in this thing.
Stop. And just go the other way.
This man I got a bad feeling about this.
Now it's all about the laughs on Power 108.9.
All right, folks, we're back. It's the fourth Tuesday of the month here on All About the Laughs on Power 108.9. I'm your host, Andy Gunnan. We're going to have a great show for you. If you would, please share the show. That's how we build and grow numbers. Please share. You can comment if you want, ask us questions during the show, or you can call in at 678-383-2339. You can also check us out on power1089.com. We're live right now. That's right. It's up, it's running. You can hear music, you can hear the shows. You can go back and check out other shows. But by the way, we got to pay the bills. Take care of our sponsors. Hey, we had some really bad storms here last night. I don't know if you were woken up like 3:45 like I was, but if you got any roof damage, leaks, or your neighbor does, give our sponsors a call, Venture Roofing. They'll take care of you. Give them a call at 678-656-7482. They'll give you a free estimate, whether it's an insurance claim, storm, leak, whatever, full replacement. Give them a call today and tell them Power 108.9 sent you. They will take care of you. Also, we want to thank the CBD joint in Marietta, 801 Church Street. They're another sponsor. By the way, they're going to be on the podcast this Thursday. The owner, Ross, talking everything CBD. Check them out in Marietta or online at the CBDJointCollective.com, or give a call at 678-932-6912. All orders online are 10% off, so give them a shout, and they do curbside drop-off and pickup. Oh, all right, so it's time for the show. We paid the bills. Hey, folks, I want to welcome my guest here. I met this guy doing comedy. He does a lot of recording. I'm going to let him talk more about that. but he does a lot of video and audio visual recording, editing down the path of movies, TVs, and he went into business for himself not too long ago. I met him. He recorded me for the first time, I think about 2 years ago, and did a great job. And we got to talking about virtual shows and how to do them, and we just had this great conversation. I said, we have got to talk about this on there. So welcome, Paul Hoover, to the show.
Appreciate it. No,
Thank
thank you. Thank you.
Glad to have you, brother.
Yeah, no, glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Like I said, we were talking after a show I did last Thursday, me and Mookie G, John Chappell, and a few other folks. And it's been a hot topic with, COVID and social distancing. And now that shows or venues are trying to do a few live shows and kind of open doors back up a little bit and still be able to do a limited seating, but be able to, I guess, try to get that out there, virtually for folks that don't want to come in.
Right.
And we were all like, how do you do this? And there's been several things that have been going on. And then I told Mookie to call you. And then when I called you, I had the same daggum questions. We started talking. You were like, man, and you just walked down a path. I was like, you know what? You answered my question, and then 1,000 other ones.
I would call it verbal vomit.
Right.
I just
no, but
just
tell
threw it all
folks,
out there.
folks your background and how you got into media and video editing and all that stuff.
Sure, I'll be quick about it.
No, we got an hour.
Okay, all good. No, when I was a kid, and I don't know, I'm 44 at this point, but when I was a kid, I saw Superman, I saw Star Wars, and I just remember like watching those movies and just being so amazed by how they did it.
Yep.
And it was like, how in the world did they put this stuff together? What what does it take to do that? And here's the thing too. So for those of us that lived in the VCR age, where you would go out to Blockbuster, you'd rent a movie,
night,
and you'd have it for 2 or 3 days, and you'd watch the same movie over and over and over and over and over. And so those movies, I think we had maybe 10 or 20 in my house.
Right.
So all the movies were just, you just keep watching it over and over.
Right.
And so, you kind of memorize this stuff. And then ironically, there was a company, I did tech support for a long time. I was a computer techie growing up. And one thing led to another, and I was actually valeting in Buckhead here in Atlanta.
Nice.
And the HR lady from a previous company that I worked for came in and said, "Oh, we need somebody to do IT for us."
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and interviewed for that.
Right.
And then I had a gentleman grab me, drag me down the hall, and say, "We also need somebody to do video editing for us."
Gotcha.
And I said, "Well, I've never done it before, but I have 600 DVDs. Does that count?"
I watch a lot of movies.
Exactly. I watch all the commentaries. I watch all this stuff. And he goes, "Yeah, I think that does. Yeah, I think that counts."
Right.
And so I lowballed myself to get in the door. And I literally never cut together a movie in my life. Not once. Never. I had the visions in my head, but I'd never done it. And so they actually paid me to help learn. And I was with that company for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Doing corporate video for them.
Nice.
And I remember some of the first things I put together, and I was just like, I threw it to my boss, and I was like, well, I don't know, what do you think about this?
Right.
She goes, just keep doing the same. Just do this.
Just
this
keep
is
working.
great. And I remember I took a May Media workshop, which I'm not sure you're familiar with that, but it's a film school type thing up in Maine.
Okay.
And you spend a week with people that are in the industry, that are actually doing it. And this was with Mark Alano, who did the sound for Titanic,
and Iron Man,
for the Iron Man movies, all that good stuff. And I did a mini documentary, which is actually on YouTube right now, of that week. And we played it on Friday night at the graduation. And I remember him dragging me to the side, and he says, "I don't know in what capacity, but you're definitely a filmmaker."
Nice.
And
that's big.
Was validation.
Yes.
Right there.
Of course.
Like, I am on the right path. I've got my finger on the pulse.
Yeah. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm in my lane.
Exactly.
I'm in my lane.
Exactly. Because you can always think like, oh, I'm so great, or I got this or that. But if it was one of those things where it was like he saw in me the visions that I had, or the potential that I had.
Right. Exactly.
And I'll give you one other quick thing that he told me, which is great, because my original thought was, hey, I want to edit Hollywood movies.
Right.
I want to edit Hollywood films. And I asked him, I said, well, what does it take to do that?
Right.
You know what he said? He said 3 words.
What's that?
Just get good.
Just get good.
Just get good.
It's kind of like what Kevin Smith says. Like, just grab a camera. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
He's like, you never know, with Clerks and everything. He's like, just grab a camera, just do it. He said, bottom line, that's all he says. Just do it.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, part of it is, and part of it is, and when people ask me today, you know, like they say, hey, well, how do I get into this kind of stuff? I was like, well, if you're not doing it not for money, you'll never do it for money.
Right.
I mean, part of it is it's got to be a passion of yours. It's got to be something you want to do. And there's a lot of people out there that, I mean, they're competent editors.
Right.
But if they don't have the passion for it or the vision for it, or I just see a lot of very competent / incompetent editors. I mean, they do the cuts right, they do the sound right, but as far as actually creating a story or trying to get a point across, they can't do that.
Right.
And that's what I think a lot of studios and a lot of they're lacking is, okay, you got the people that can do the work, but can you create a vision and a story?
Well, there's a lot of work into it on anything in the film industry.
Absolutely.
It's a ton of work, whether you're filming or before, in front of, behind, or whatever, especially behind.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, absolutely. I mean, and part of it, too, here's the other challenge as an editor, is part of it is buying into their vision.
Right.
It's not as you have your vision, but if you're going to work for anybody,
Right.
you've got to buy into their vision first.
Right.
And then go, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to not get across what I think should happen, but what I think, do the best job possible to portray what I think you want.
Right.
And if you can do that, you'll be successful. I mean,
So you kind of got to be somewhat of a blank slate and take your stuff out of it and just
you have
be
to
like
take the ego
out
of it.
And that's hard to do for a lot of folks in the entertainment world, especially and as comedians and performers and anything. You've done comedy.
Yes.
And I
did it for 2 years. Well, I got paid once, so I mean,
Doesn't matter.
I was super successful at $25 across to the punchline one night because here's the funny part: because the guy that was supposed to be there, who was my buddy, didn't show up.
Oh, nice.
And so she goes, well, now you need to do it. Now, this was a group of 60, 65-year-olds.
Right.
And most of my material at that point was blue.
Yeah. That didn't go over
So
too
I had
well.
5 minutes. No, I had 30 minutes to come up with 5 minutes, pretty much on the spot, that I was going to do.
Right.
Because most of the material I did at that time, I couldn't do. And it was actually one of the best experiences of my life. It was absolutely awesome because I understood it didn't necessarily have to, everything had to be, over the top hilarious. It was just, reaching the crowd.
Right.
That
And connecting.
Connecting to whatever crowd that you happen to be with. And in video, it's the same way. You've got to connect to your audience. Give them a reason to watch. Give them a reason to go to the end of the video. And if you don't do that, I see a lot of videos that have good potential to start, and then at the end, you just kind of go, why? You didn't give me a reason to get all the way to the end.
Right.
And that's important anyway. So.
Well, and that becomes the visual. I mean, the visual, because you've got tons of footage and you've got to pick out the best and play with it and go back and forth, right?
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, that's part of it. Part of it is what jumps out at you. I tell people sometimes it's funny. It's like I call it either like shaving a diamond. You're never going to make the final cuts that the diamond will become. You make the cut, you take off this, you take off this, you take off this, you take off this, and then you watch it again. And then you keep smoothing, and you keep polishing, and you watch it. When I do a movie, I probably watch it at least 30 to 50 times before I put it out.
Right.
Now, this might not be like a comedy show.
Right.
But what I'm saying is if you're doing a commercial or some kind of sequence of some kind,
right,
you've got to keep watching it because certain things will jump out at you.
Right.
The second time or the third time or the 10th time. In fact, if you can and you have time, back off and then come back and watch it again. I mean, the hardest thing to ever do is self-evaluate yourself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
And as a video editor, you constantly have to do that because it's like, here's what I'm trying to put together.
Right.
And how does it come across? I have to watch it as if nobody's ever seen it before.
And that's hard to do once you've seen it 20,
absolutely.
30 times.
Well, because all of us want to be like, no, everything I do is super great. I'm the greatest comic. I'm the greatest video editor ever. And we're not. So that's the thing. So it's
right.
How do you pull yourself back and go, okay, pretend I'm somebody who's never seen this before.
Right.
How does this come across to them? And I would say that's part of it is not necessarily just what you put together, but how does it come across?
Right.
And the self-evaluation thing, that's a hard thing to be able to do, but I don't know, for some reason, it just comes natural to me to be able to try and do that sort of thing. And it really does help. It really does help.
So you talked about your movie influence. What are your comedy influences, or what were your comedy? To make you decide, I'm going to try this. I'm going to stand up, just like the rest of us. What was that catalyst? What was that thing?
Absolutely. No. It's hilarious. So I was actually a minister's kid growing up. I preached 3 times in high school to 500 people, and I was the shy guy.
Nice.
Believe it or not. Probably the most
That's
scared.
typically the way it goes, though.
That's probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. Ever. And then I was watching a Comedy Central special on the 100 greatest comics of all time.
Right.
And they were talking about Bill Hicks. Now, I know a lot of comics throw that out, but for me, this was before a lot of comics were like, yeah, he's my influence. Okay, I'm just saying this was a long time ago.
Right.
And what I remember about what he was doing, the comedy he was doing, was he was making points.
Right.
And being funny at the same time. And I never knew that was even possible.
Right.
I thought, every joke had to be some kind of Bob Saget, America's Funniest Home Video kind of joke.
Right.
And when he was actually making points and making it funny, I was like, oh, you can do that? I mean, it was like the doors open.
Right.
And I always had the vision of doing that. Now, I do remember in D.C., it was funny. I went and saw Biff from Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah.
As well as a comic who I think is still doing, named Chris White.
Yep.
And it was in Philadelphia when I lived in Philadelphia. And after the show, I told Chris White, I said, well, hey, I have an idea of trying to do this. Mm-hmm. I bought his CD. He wrote on there, I command you to do stand-up on my CD. Now, it took me a little while, but 5 years later, 2011, I took my first class at Laughing Skull. I also did a few punchline classes. Mm-hmm. I also did improv for 6 months at Whole World here in Atlanta. So...
Nice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was just one of those things where it's kind of like just get off your butt and do it.
Right.
You
exactly.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, I kept telling myself excuses about, you kept coming up with excuses, and then it was like, at some point I was like, I had no more excuses, and I wanted to, they say there's sometimes as a sponge you absorb, and then there's time to squeeze it.
Yep.
It was time for me to squeeze the sponge, and that's what I was doing. Yeah.
Good.
So
that's kind of the same way it was for me. Same thing. It's like, I've done this. This is what I've always wanted to do. I've gotten to this point in life. It's like, if not, I'm just going to fill it with stupidity and doing stuff that's pointless. So.
Right.
But hey, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We're going to get down into the nitty-gritty about virtual comedy and showing it on Facebook, doing it virtual shows, the challenges, what to do, what not to do, kind of like what we talked about. And we'll dive into that when we get back. Stick around on All About the Laughs on Power 108.9.
Yo, looking for a new house? Then it's time for you to holler at our guy, the mortgage guy, Alvin Jameson of Loan Depot. Yo, it's your boy Michael McFadden of Mornings with Michael and Friends, and I tell you what, Alvin Jameson and the crew, they really do it all. First-time home buyers, refinances, investment properties, VA home loans too. Hit them up. It's very simple. AlvinJameson.com. Y'all know Alvin like the chipmunk, Jameson like that fine whiskey. You can also hit them up by mobile phone, 404-587-9033. Once again, 404-587-9033. Alvin Jameson, Loan Depot. Tell them you heard it on Power 108.9. What up, Alvin?
Keep up with Power 108.9 on social media.
Can I find you?
Instagram.
At Power 108.9.
And Facebook.
At Power 108.9.
It's the exact same thing. It's at Power 108.9.
Okay.
Power 108.9. A station for the people. What's up, family? I call you family because I feel like we can be honest with each other. Nowadays, we all got side hustles and businesses. And in the gig economy, we're all looking for ways to expand our clientele. Power up with 108.9's advertising partnership. Connect to over 100,000 viewers per month. If you're interested, contact our marketing director at thepower1089@gmail.com. Help us reach your target audience and expand your brand. Power 108.9, the station for the people. In a world of petty and immature people, it's refreshing to hear a morning show that has sophisticated hosts such as Michael McFadden and Jay Nash. Don't believe me? Take a listen.
But shout out to our friends over there at Credit Building Professionals. What up, Credit Craig?
I tried to come with you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're
That's
welcome.
what she said.
Oh,
Hey.
Power 108.9, a station for the people.
All right, folks, we're back here and all about the laughs on Power 108.9. I'm your host, Andy Gunn. My guest is Paul Hoover in the building. We've been talking a little bit about movies and editing and how he got into it, and we're going to kind of get into our topic tonight of virtual show streaming and that kind of stuff. But hey, folks, if you're like me and you were woke up at 3:45 this morning from the bad storms here in metro Atlanta area, and you have storm damage, roof leak, a tree on your house, tree through your house, give our sponsors a call, Venture Roofing. Call them at 678-656-7482. They will come out, give you a free estimate, help you with an insurance claim, get you patched up and taken care of. Also, we want to thank the CBD joint in Marietta, 801 Church Street. Get all your CBD stuff from them at the CBDcollective.com. Get 10% off on all online orders. Thanks for being here, bud. Thanks for being here, Paul.
Oh, thanks for having me. This
Yeah,
is
man.
great. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. And now we're going to get into the meat of what you and I were talking about and kind of where we were going with our topic. And because when I came to you and said, hey, because it came up in a conversation in the parking lot after a show last Thursday with Mookie and a few other comics, it's like, how do we take when we do a show and we only have like 3 or 4, 5, 10 people, and people don't want to come out because of the COVID and social distancing, which we all understand. How do we do that and virtually sell a ticket? And then that's when you and I walk down the path of like, hey, man, there's a lot of flags and a lot of things, and you have recorded a lot of comedians and done a lot of work on the movie side. But as far as comedy, it's a totally different animal than what we were talking about in movies, correct?
Yes. No, absolutely. And here's the thing. Like, a lot of times when you see a live comedy show, it's
Right.
mostly like late night talk show hosts.
Yeah.
Or let's say I don't say comedy, but like pastors in churches and stuff
Yep.
like that, where it's a set up studio type environment where it is all the gear has been bought, set up, tweaked specifically for that. I mean, they walk in the front door, they flip a switch, they have a few people move a camera around, and they're golden.
Right.
The challenge when it comes to an actual live show, there's a few. There's a bunch, actually, but
No, let's walk down all of them.
yeah. Well, there's a few, and we talked about some of them. One is the ticket side and the video side are two totally different animals. There might be some companies out there that do both.
There are a couple that launched out there, but I've not played around or looked into them.
Okay, but for the most part, if you're going to reach out and try and do that, it's two separate entities.
Right.
The ticket side, like people buy virtual tickets.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take care of all that. Then you got to set the email address for that. Then you have the technical side, and that's where a lot of the craziness can happen. And
what's the craziness?
Well, what I'm trying to say is okay, so here's the deal. So when it comes to, again, most of the time when you do filming, you're focused on an individual. You're not focused on the crowd. Even a pastor, they don't care about the crowd.
Right.
They're worried about the crowd noise. But
when in church, nobody's wanting laughter because they tell them they're all going to hell.
Well, there you go.
It's silence,
and that's hilarious when you tell the crowd they're going to hell.
Yeah.
That's probably I don't know.
Change your ways. You're going to hell.
I laugh every time, but no, for real. Again, when it comes to a comedy show, the problem is a lot of recordings that people get is all the audio comes straight through the microphone.
Right.
And you don't hear the crowd.
Right.
And again,
you have to have crowd interaction.
Well, that's half the show.
Yep.
Half of the performance is the comic doing their thing.
Right.
The other half of the performance is the reaction to it.
Exactly.
And that's, imperative. If you don't have that, then you don't have a comedy show.
Exactly.
And so it's becoming harder and harder. Again, as you used to have like 300 people in a room, maybe you have 40 or 50 now.
Right.
Okay, so how do you capture that? And how do you now again, in the room, you might also have a reaction. But if they're not capturing that reaction, anybody in a virtual sense.
Well, let's
is
talk
not
about how
is
you
not hearing
record
that.
when you recorded me and at the
Sure.
Punchline, and you've recorded several shows I've been on.
Absolutely.
Walk me through that, and then
Sure.
let's see the parallel to that to the virtual side.
Absolutely. So when I record live events,
Yep.
I always get, first of all, the sound off the board is the best sound as far as from the comics perspective. So I always try and record off the board. I will always have a mic on the camera as well. And then I have these little Zoom recording bricks. I call them bricks that I literally set throughout the room to help capture the sound from inside the laughs, if you will.
Right.
And
Those are high quality recording. I've got one. They're about $100 on.
Well, this one was about. These are about
$300.
These are about $300.
$300. Yeah, you got the nice one.
You
I
can
just
get.
got. I
well,
got the low. I got
I
the used 5-year-old model.
I tell people they're the Hyundai of recording bricks because you
Right.
can literally pay like $1,000 or more for these things.
Right.
But I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You probably spend a few hundred to get some good ones.
Right.
And it does record the laughter and does all that, but it also records a lot of background noise. And that's the thing too. Like what people don't understand is the mix. And most stand-up comics, as far as any comedy you've ever seen, was not live.
Okay.
It was a production.
Yeah, it was a production.
And they take that sound and they take the ones that they like and they mix it and they filter
Right,
it
it's like
out.
what we
and
talked
they
about. It's
take-
like Netflix when a comic does it, they record that show 2, maybe 3 times.
And
at
that too.
night,
Absolutely.
night, right? And
Absolutely.
and then blend it together.
Yes. But the other thing too is I guarantee you they've run that sound through a lot of mixes and they balance it out and they try to figure out how does it sound the best? And the challenge in a live environment is, especially, again, you might have a guy behind a camera, but do you have somebody else actually watching the sound? Not the guy on the soundboard. The guy on the soundboard is going to only cares about how it sounds inside the club. He doesn't know what's going on the video side. Do you have somebody sitting there watching the show on a laptop? Like, hey, is the mix right? Can I hear the crowd laughing? Can I hear the comic right? Because, again, you get it. And if the guy starts messing with the sliders back and forth, what was great all of a sudden now you're too loud, or the crowd is too loud,
Or
it's
go
hard
dead.
to hear you. I mean, it's just there's a lot of nuance to it in real time that people may or may not be aware of, and the different factors that play into to do it right, is what I'm trying to say.
No, yeah, and this kind of goes into what I was going to talk about, because a lot of places, specifically the Laugh Factory in California, they have been doing these virtual shows like weekly, and they were doing. I haven't paid attention lately, but they were doing them weekly, where they'd have the host, and it'd be the whole club is emptied out. They'd have 2 or 3 people in the room just to go ha ha ha. But when they were broadcasting and trying to bring comedians up, and the comedians are doing their sets, and I'm watching it going, okay, this would be probably a very good set if the room was filled with people.
Sure,
but
sure.
because you were hearing the echo of his voice bouncing off, and then when these 4 or 5 people in the room would laugh, their voice bounced. You could hear the echo and it wasn't genuine and real. It didn't feel
right,
and you could tell. So it was like kind of painful.
Yes,
but we were all trying to dig and get through these challenges and things of what to do.
Sure, yeah.
And then it was what and that's why it got brought up. He's like, man, how do I take this show and do it virtually? I was like, I don't know, but I know who to probably ask, and that was you.
Well, one of the things, and we talked about this, was ironically when the COVID thing happened, I sort of saw a business opportunity, and somebody could take this and run with it, because I've decided, at least at this point, I haven't done it yet.
Right.
But how do you create a virtual live show? But what I realized early on in that process was the feedback loop of the crowd one of the most important things.
Exactly.
And if you don't have that, there's 5 or whatever. So it was like, okay, do we have to have speakers in the audience?
Right.
Spread throughout that would give the comic that feedback, because without the feedback,
you don't know where you're at. You don't know your
No.
tempo.
No.
You don't know whether they keep going or you're about to step on your punchline. Have they had, was it not good?
it probably feels more like a rehearsal,
Right.
than an actual show.
Right.
And again, a lot of people, people that do this professionally, of course they're going to bring it.
Right.
But a lot of people, again, it's kind of like, how the NFL says, hey, we play down to our competition.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with comedy. What happens is the energy level, when you don't have that feedback, people tend to, all of a sudden, the energy goes away.
Right. And I noticed that when I did my first show in June, when I went down in Florida, and I had not been on stage in several months at that point. And I had ran my stuff at home and in front of the mirror and in front of the dogs and all that stuff, like I normally do to feel my tempo. But you don't know until you hit the stage. And I thought I was ready, and I got up there, and the crowd reacted different. And I wasn't used to the crowd reaction. I'd lost touch with the crowd reaction.
Sure.
And, and it blew my mind really quick, and I struggled to get through that 10, 12
It's
minutes.
like they were bumping you off. You're like,
And here I am at a big club,
Yeah.
but it went well, and I finally about halfway through, I found my tempo with them, and I got moving, and I got them laughing. I'm like, okay, here we are, and I'm opening at a major club with a big 30-year-old headline. Yeah, yes. No, they didn't do that. No, they didn't do that. They did not boo me off. No, it was not a total bomb. No.
So it wasn't a good club, eh?
But that was the whole thing.
I'm kidding.
But the
I'm
crowd
kidding.
in reaction, it threw, it didn't throw me, but it was just like I hadn't had that, and when you don't have that, it's
hard.
It's
And
hard.
especially
Very
comics
difficult.
who haven't done it in a while. It's like, it's kind of funny. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, I always told myself years ago, I was like, if a joke doesn't work, pretend that it did.
right. Yeah, even
And then keep going as if it did. And a lot of people some people can do that.
Yep.
A lot of people can't, because they almost need that feedback. Right. And but that's where these virtual shows, you kind of have to go, that joke just killed.
right.
And then keep on going. And
Right.
a lot of people, it's almost like being an actor. Not just being a comic. You
being
have to
an
be an
actor.
actor and
You're
go,
right.
you know
and
what?
with all these Zoom things, a lot of comics are getting into these Zoom open mics, and they're like, Andy, you really got to do. And I don't like them because there's a delay half the time.
Sure. Yes. yes. Absolutely.
And if I
Yes.
keep going, and then the laughter comes in 2 seconds after to that thing,
Your timing is off.
I feel like I got to stop, and I'm like, because in your head you go, you got to let the laughter. I'm like, well, that was 2-3 seconds ago. I'm already pushing into the next joke.
Right, and that was part of the challenge when I was coming up with this business opportunity, was that kind of stuff. What happens if there's people in the front row that are having a conversation with each other? Do you hear that over everybody else?
Right.
Little stuff like that. So anyway,
Exactly.
it's all good.
Wait, no, this is great. We're going to get into more and dive deep more into this when we come back. Hey, stick around. Power 108.9, all about the laughs.
Question: who has an idea for a new app? Well, if you answer yes to that question, it's time for you to holler at our friends over at Appsketeers. Yo, it's Michael McFadden of Power 108.9 and the crew over at Appsketeers to take great care of you. Nick in the Game provides you with the all-in-one app development experience. We're talking design, UI, UX, coding, and a whole bunch more. And if you have no clue what that means, It's time for you to holler at Absketeers. Check out the website, absketeers.com. Now, we're talking full confidentiality, no hassle, no obligation. If you don't believe me, just call them. 833-APP-IDEA. That's 833-APP-IDEA. As a matter of fact, you know what they do? They design, they build, and they launch. Tell them you heard it on Power 108.9, and don't forget to ask for the governor. What up, Nick? Yo, looking for a new house? Then it's time for you to holler at our guy, the mortgage guy, Alvin Jameson of Loan Depot. Yo, it's your boy Michael McFadden of Mornings with Michael and Friends, and I tell you what, Alvin Jameson and the crew, they really do it all. First-time home buyers, refinances, investment properties, VA home loans too. Hit them up. It's very simple. AlvinJameson.com. Y'all know Alvin like the chipmunk, Jameson like that fine whiskey. You can also hit them up by mobile phone, 404-587-9033. Once again, 404-587-9033. Alvin Jameson, Loan Depot. Tell them you heard it on Power 108.9. What up, Alvin? It's tax time, ladies and gentlemen, and this year, Mills Financial Group has some amazing programs for all of us, especially, though, if you're a truck driver, contract worker, real estate professional, and definitely those that are self-employed. Now, Mills Financial will get you the maximum refund you deserve. We're talking cash advances up to $9,500 in just 1 hour. Want to get started? Give them a call, 877-634-6299. Now, Mills Financial Group has several locations across the United States of America, including Philly, New Orleans, and our favorite location, the Battery, Atlanta, home of the Atlanta Braves, making tax season that much easier for you. Call them, 877-634-6299. Now, 2020 was tough, and Mills Financial Group wants to help you get what you deserve during tax season. Hit them up, 877-634-6299, or visit the website Mills Financial Group. That's MILLZ financialgroup.com. They got your back.
The New Normal Podcast.
It better be served to me by some naked woman.
It's locker room talk. That's what boys do.
Sports and locker room talk.
Can't keep anything else in my freezer.
Yeah.
But at least I can drink a ton of whiskey with ice cubes.
This ain't your ordinary sports podcast. Check out the New Normal Podcast on Power108.9.com every Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12 noon.
No f***ing way.
Power 108.9, a station for the people.
All right, folks, we're back on All About the Labs here on Power 108.9. Hey, big shout out to Finland. Folks in Finland are watching us. They're listening on Power1089.com, just like you can right now, and your friends share it. Tell Finland we said, what's up? I just did. It's weird. I didn't know I was being broadcast in Finland. Who's what? Hey, but thanks for watching. Remember, folks, if you were woke up last night at 4 in the morning, a tree fell on your house, your roof's got blown off, call our friends at Venture Roofing, 678-656-7482, or you can click it on my page on All About the Laughs, and also the CBD joint in Marietta. If you need to get some CBD to calm down after last night's storm, give them a shout, and the CBDcollective.com. 10% off all online orders, or give them a shout, 678-932-6912. Ross will take care of you. So, we're back with my guest, Paul Hoover, friend, comic, and media extraordinaire guy.
Thank you yet again. Yes. For sure.
We've been talking about how trying to get people in comedy shows, and is it worth trying to virtually show a show, a production, not necessarily an open mic, but a show. Like I was at last Thursday doing at Old Vinings, where we had a few folks, and the thought is, well, if we do it virtually, sell virtual tickets, will that help the venue and us and everybody because of all the social distancing or not? And I called my friend Paul, who does a very good job recording and editing some of my stuff for me, as well as many other comics, and he just blew my mind with, dude, not good, and it's a complication. You know, there's a bigger picture here, which I agree with him 100%. So that's kind of what we've been walking down the path of, and that's where we left off. Virtual streaming, filming regular shows is a production in itself.
Sure.
Much less a virtual show when you're recording, because you can go back and edit. When you're doing our show, you're recording us, going back, playing with the sound, playing with the picture. But when we're talking about doing it virtually, you don't know.
Nothing can go wrong.
No.
I mean, it is a production. You're going from, again, being able to fix mistakes or fix issues that you see or a mixed sound in post versus it has to all be live and in real time. And that doesn't take one person. Now, I told you, I mean, yeah, people might roll the dice. And I mean, they might have this amazing setup that works. But every comic has a different dynamic. They're either loud, they're soft, maybe they're both.
Yep, exactly. And I ran into that
yeah.
here recently, and that's half of our conversation was I ran into that, which unbeknownst, I wasn't intending to run into that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's also we talk about the legal aspects. I mean, there's not just the technical side, which is like, okay, let's make sure that this, because there's a thing. I mean, you're going in there doing a show, and it's like, I want to, put my best foot forward. I want people to see me in my best light. And if the mix isn't right, so all they hear is you, or all they hear is the crowd.
Right. And to let folks know what we're kind of tiptoeing on, I did a show Saturday down in Tallahassee at an amazing place. They had a separate venue inside the bar and restaurant for bands and things like this, and then specifically for bands, but they started doing comedy. They had an amazing sound, amazing setup. I mean, their setup rivaled the Laughing Skull. If not, I mean, nothing against that, but that's just where it was.
Sure.
Tons of audio equipment, lights, spotlights, beautiful place, nice, big, open, but soundproofed in the right places. You could tell they had, like you said, specifically set this up to do one thing and record and broadcast bands. We had no clue, but the owner decided to do a test run and broadcast the entire comedy show live. And halfway through, we saw it, and I'm like, oh, no, what is this? One, we had not, the legal aspect, we had not given permission nor been told.
They never said anything.
Never said anything.
No.
Until we questioned them afterwards. And so we can talk about that legal aspect because I was like, whoa. No one asked, no one said. But then when I went back and I was listening and I was watching it on Facebook because we're in the middle of the show, so when I brought up the comic and I'd go out and I was sitting there, like you said, we only had like 15, 20 people. We had about 25 people. And it was very sparse crowd for the size of the room it was.
Sure.
And you couldn't quite hear you would hear some people laugh, but you could only hear one or two.
Right.
And it was and it would come off. And then when I went back and listened to it, you couldn't hear me, or I would go in, I would go out. Because I wasn't, we didn't know. And of course the owner was like, well, this is a tester. And I go, that's good and all. But can you please take him down?
Yeah. Thanks for using me as a guinea pig.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But I guess he learned a lot, and that's fine. But I don't want it up there, and I don't want it out there because all my stuff was all new material.
Sure.
Now,
sure.
I came up with that material here 2 weeks ago. I did it live for the first time last Thursday and Saturday, and now it's a great bit. And it's working out. But I was like, dude, I don't want that out there. It's still not polished. It's brand new, dude.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's a great bit, but dude, I don't want it out there right now. I haven't given permission.
Well, and you got two people in the crowd laughing. I mean, it's just like it makes you. That's the thing too. It's like if you don't have the mix right, it makes you look like all your jokes just suck.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make you look better as a comic.
No,
it
doesn't.
makes you look like you're worse if it's not done correctly. Is what I'm trying to say.
In comedy, to get that feel for that Netflix does when you watch a special and you get into it, there's a lot to it because of the mixing and all that. And I think it dilutes when you're not there because you're not in the moment. You're not excited to be there. It pulls away.
Sure.
And just like I've seen Segura and I've seen a lot of these guys live, and seeing them live versus their special, it's a 50% increase in enjoyment and laughter and getting the joke in real time with everybody around you.
Sure. And the way let me say one other thing about this, because when I cut stuff together, I don't know if you're aware of this, I'm sitting in the audience, and when I cut stuff together, I'm trying to put it together as if how it was when I was in the audience.
Right.
Most people, when they cut shows together, and they're all great and they're brilliant about how they cut shows together, but for the most part, they try to. That's why all comedy shows sound the same. It doesn't sound like a live show because they cut out all the highs, all the lows. They just have this narrow band of audio, and they enhance it and then and mix it, and here you go. Whereas one of the things, and I don't know if you picked up on it, but I tried to recreate that live experience, if possible.
Yeah.
In the videos that I put together when I'm doing comedy, most people who are doing this are not.
Right.
So, but that's all in post.
Right.
Imagine trying to do that
live
on the fly,
like
in real time.
And you don't know the venue you're walking into to set up, if it's a big open ceiling, if it's hard surfaces, things like that. That all plays a part, correct?
It all does, absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. So if you have a comedy club that's set up for that, that's one thing. But if you're trying to go into a club and go, hey, I'm going to do a live show for you, let me set this stuff up.
Right.
I mean, you don't know what their internet connection is. You don't know where their Ethernet is. You don't know where to set up. You don't. So you might.
And God forbid it goes out.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. And that's the other thing, too. I mean, you start selling, let's say you sell 100 virtual tickets. What, $15, $20 a pop? And then all of a sudden the stream goes out, or the camera goes off, or something. You now have to, two things. Number one, you have to now reimburse all those people who want their money back.
Right.
But number two,
but do you
anybody
have to?
that was in that show and or your club, I mean, they're going to go, well, I will never do this again with these guys.
Right. Well, funny thing, Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura have a thing called Two Bears, One Cave together.
Yes.
And
Familiar,
they did a
yes.
New Year's Eve thing where people could, I think, pay $10 or $12 to hang out with them, and they did a whole all the way up to New Year's Eve thing with them, and they sold so many. It blew
the stream.
It blew the stream in the
Oh,
servers.
my.
I don't know if you know this. And the only reason I know is because I stumbled across an episode a week or two ago. Tom apologized, and everybody's like, "Look, I thought I had this handled. We bought all this stuff, and we still blew the servers, and it went out. And I know a lot of you are like thousands of people.
Sure.
We're talking thousands. So this is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So for small guys, or what do we say, small guys, comics like us trying to produce our own shows to make some bucks and make a few extra bucks and do a show, and then that goes out, we can't afford for that to happen.
Sure. I'm just saying, what you need to make sure is if you've got a good professional team. This takes a team of people. It's not one dude that walks in and says, hey, I'm going to film your show, and yes, I can stream it. You've got to be able. You got to be able. You've got to have a team to do it right. That's what I'm trying to say.
How much of the comedian's experience makes your job videoing that much easier? How much of the comedian's experience? Meaning a seasoned professional, maybe 5, 6 years, 8 years in, versus a guy in 1, 2 years.
Well, okay, all right. So I'll give you a good answer on the post production side. I don't know how many of you are aware of what a plosive is, or Sers and stuff like that. Well,
we don't.
Plosive is when people like pop, they pee into a microphone. Say pee, those pops in a microphone.
Right.
Rookies tend to do that a lot. S's is when you get the snaky kind of sound a lot.
Right. Okay.
A lot of comics don't know how to hold a mic properly.
So
they'll pull it in and out.
I've had that conversation.
They'll put it right up to their lips.
Well, I had that problem Saturday because we had microphones. The good point about this venue, they had 4 wireless mics for us.
Yes.
Which made me nervous to begin with. But they were all set, 4 for each of us for social distancing, COVID, which was great. Problem was, we didn't know there's a dead spot.
Oh, no.
All around the microphone, unless you were dead in the center of it.
Oops.
So
as you're going back and forth,
none of us knew it.
Sometimes, sometimes they hold the microphone too far away, or way too close, or they're screaming into a microphone, and the guy on the board isn't ready for that, and so it's just So here's the thing: in post, you're sitting there going like, I have to. You have some people that are soft spoken,
right,
and then you have people that are very over the top and dynamic, and so but you have to create. Again, most shows, it's one comic, maybe 2, maybe 3. You got a show with 10 or 12 or 15 comics.
Ugh.
Guess what? Your mix has to work for every single comic, no matter what delivery they have, or no matter how they can't
Right.
You know, I'm not going to say they speak properly, but as far as to use a microphone properly.
Right. And it takes practice. It takes time to figure that out.
Absolutely.
And figure your voice out and figure out where you're going, where that mic needs to be when you do a certain thing.
Absolutely. And when you say certain things,
Yep,
and if
exactly.
you're going to be over the top, you don't bring it to your lips to be over the top. You go over the top and you pull it away. I mean, if you look at professionals, they will pull the mic away as they say more loud, as they scream things or something, they pull it away. They don't pull it towards you. And they think, oh, it's going to make it even more dynamic or over the top. No, it just blows out the sound or the crowd just, they're more startled than that.
And you've taken that moment and shifted it from a ready for a punchline moment to what the heck?
Exactly. People are jumping in their seats, and sometimes you had headphones on and you're listening to this, and whoa, yeah, I mean, you do the same thing, like, whoa, oh my God, so yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, no, I mean, for the most part, what I think is kind of cool, though, is, again, there's a lot of people that are doing really, really good. I mean, like, some people that have just started who, sometimes you see these people have this natural comedic talent that they didn't know they had.
Right.
But you spot it right away.
Right.
Their relatability, their creativity, their way of relating to an audience.
Yep.
And they don't necessarily see that.
Right.
And so one of the things that I try and do from behind the camera and when I see them is say, hey, look, I don't know if you know. I'm not trying to,
Direct
blow
you
smoke or anything,
not,
but I'm like, hey, you need to know this is something, when I see you do this, you look like you really enjoy doing this. You're doing a great job. You make people laugh, but you're very relatable. And it's something that I can't wait to see what you say next. And some of those people need to hear that.
No, they do.
Because let's be honest, there's a lot of people that probably should be getting out of comedy. And there's a lot of people that need to stay in comedy.
Right.
And you need to encourage, because, in the comedy community, we do encourage each other, but specifically encouraging people.
Yeah.
And being genuine. That's important. You have to be real about it.
I'd rather somebody come and say, hey, I like this, this was great, all those things, but also here's the gaps I see. I want people, I would look, I'm one of those. I'm like, where's the gaps?
Sure.
Like,
but it has to be somebody you respect. What I'm trying to say is anybody in the audience can tell you that.
Right.
But part of it is again, everybody's material is slightly different and maybe geared to a slightly different person. So I think it's important to not necessarily go like, okay, did everybody have the most amazing time tonight? Because maybe your material's not geared to everyone.
And it's not. And you could have 10 comics on the show, and each of them are going to have comedy geared towards a different sect of folks.
Sure.
And that's a given. I know where my lane is. My lane is middle-aged dude talking about, getting fatter and kicking Girl Scouts away and, wax-dipped hamsters that his stepdaughter, things like that. So, I know my lane.
Yeah. Well, I would say
And
this. I would say this real quick. It's kind of like video editing in the sense that you have to be open to critique, but don't let it derail what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
That's
But the bottom line is you're basically saying, look, guys, if you're a comic that is used to being producing these shows, you might be making $300-400 for a venue and bringing in 5-6 comics, and then to try to do it virtually and sell virtual tickets may backfire bigger than later, and it's not worth the equipment because the amount of equipment. How many dollars in equipment would you have to do an okay one if you were going to try to do something like that? Just to let the comics and the folks know who have thought about this or maybe have tried or haven't tried and are thinking about it.
Well, I would say off the top of my head, probably easily $5,000 to start.
$5,000
and I'm not even talking like just the gear, because like I said, you can't just have a dude sitting behind a camera. You have to have somebody watching the sound. You have to have somebody monitoring the stream, and in real time they're going to have to adjust based on the crowd and based on what's going on. So it's not just gear. You can't. There's no fits every situation. I just put it in, plug it in, and everything's great. No, it's all about those little adjustments, and a lot of that does happen on the fly.
And dumb question again. Let's just say for them not to buy and get someone like you or an affiliate to come in to try to do that. What would that look like? Of course, what would that cost look like? And is it worth it? And where's the ticket price? It's
Well,
probably not worth it, I would think, at this point.
Well, that's the question is again, I think a lot of shows, if they actually knew the cost. Now, I'm not saying there's not video people out there that wouldn't do this for whatever, a few $100 or something. But I would say, for the most part, unless they know what they're doing, and unless they've done this a lot, you are rolling the dice.
Yep.
And all those virtual tickets that you're selling, you are rolling the dice that this person is going to deliver.
Right.
Because if they don't,
and
all that money that you've counted on is not going to be there.
And every comic's got to realize they're rolling the dice with how they look and come across on social media versus a well-tuned video taped by yourself at a punchline or something like what you've done for me, and then come back and splice it. I mean, you sent me 2 the first time you did it. You sent me one. I was like, oh, this is great. And you're like, no, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm re-sending you another one. I was like, I couldn't tell the difference, Paul.
I'm a firstborn perfectionist. It is funny because in my previous company, I said, well, I don't know. I can do the sound a little bit better. They go, you're the only one that hears that. In fact, my CEO, really quick, last thing, it was funny. He asked me one time, he says, how do you make me look so good? You know what I told him? I said, I don't make you look good. You make you look good. I just take away anything that doesn't.
There you go.
And
nice.
that's my job, is to help construct. You're the one that makes you look good.
Right.
I just help take away anything that doesn't make you look good.
Nice. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a well profound point. I don't know how to come back from that. But it makes sense. It's right. You're correct. You're the guy chopping up and looking and finding that stuff and polishing the rock, the final
Absolutely.
edges
we talked about
of a jagged rock to make it smooth, to make it flow and everything. So, point being, there's not an easy answers to this virtual stuff. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and close out the show a little bit. Thanks for being here. Folks, we'll be right back. We're going to close out here. Last final thoughts, the last 3 minutes. Stick around. All About the Laughs on Power 108.9.
Keep up with Power 108.9 on social media. Instagram
@Power 108.9
and Facebook.
@Power 108.9.
It's the exact same thing. It's at Power 108.9.
Okay.
Power 108.9, a station for the people.
All right, folks, we're back here on All About Laughs on Power 108.9. We've come to the end of our show with our amazing guest and friend. Yeah, that's what she said, Paul Hoover.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information, brother. Point being, all the comics that are trying in venues, restaurants, bars, that are trying to do comedy and sell tickets virtually as well as have live people, it's a big undertaking and task to do, and needs to be looked at in a different way.
Seriously. It needs to be very seriously looked at. It can't be this flippant, like, I think we're just going to sell tickets.
Because it's not a podcast.
There's so much risk. There's so much risk involved. And so if you're going to do it, make sure you do it right or have a venue. I would say, here's the thing. Instead of comics or shows, I would say venues need to take this on for themselves.
Right.
This is a business model moving
and
forward.
venues are struggling so much just to get by, and they're wanting to bring us comics in for $400, $500, but whatever the fee is, like a band, to try to bring people in. But people are like, oh, I don't want to go in, but I'll buy a virtual ticket. And they're like, it's a double-edged sword because they don't have the money to invest $5,000 or a couple of grand right now. They're barely hanging on, and
Sure. I'm not saying. All I'm trying to say is,
we were just
some
trying to
fly-by-night video guy that's going to be like, "I'll stream your show."
Right.
You're rolling the dice.
Right. You're rolling
I
the
would
dice.
say venues. It's probably a good investment now, and I'll say moving forward, this will be a good investment because when all the people come back, guess what? Then you can sell virtual tickets.
Exactly.
Then,
Then.
and you've got the setup already. So this might be an investment not just in your present, but in your future. Is what I'm trying to say for venues.
So where can people find you if they want you to come film them or help them set something up or do something like that?
I don't know. I do a lot of Facebook, and I actually have a YouTube channel as well. I'm youtube.com, phoover76. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about a project or anything that you're interested in or questions or
Commercial, movie, anything.
Absolutely.
You're open to everything.
Hey, absolutely. I'm open to whatever, man. I'm just telling you. I'm living the dream. How's that?
Yeah, that's what she said.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, folks, that's our show. Hey, check us out this Thursday, Fat Thor Podcast. We've got our sponsor, the CBD joint. They'll be on. Also, don't forget our folks, Venture Roofing. If you had a tree fly through your house last night, give them a shout. They'll take care of you. If not, we will see you back here February 9th, 8 o'clock. All That Laughs, Power 108.9. See you.